Hello there, how are you getting on? It's Jay here and welcome to my first ever WWE pay-per-view review. And what better show to start reviewing on than Wrestlemania. That's right, Wrestlemania 34 has just come and gone this past Sunday. So I'm going to go through the card and do a review for you guys. Now, just so you know, due to time constraints, I couldn't do a review immediately after the show, so I actually know the results of the Monday Night Raw that follows. So, kind of events that occurred at WrestleMania, I'll have context for now in the review. I'll try not to get too deep into discussing what happened at Raw, but still it is nice to know kind of where the story goes next from here. Anyway, this is a super long show, so let's just jump right into it. First match on the card was from the pre-show. That's right, I'm going through the pre-show matches first. It was the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the 5th Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in WrestleMania history. And honestly, as far as a Battle Royal goes, like, the main observation I have for any of these battle royals, the Andre Battle Royal starts with all competitors, regardless of how many there are, they're all in the ring at the very start of the match. And that's kind of a typical battle royal. The opposite of that would be the Royal Rumble, where two people start in the ring and periodically people will come in one by one. And kind of the advantage the Royal Rumble has is that it's easier to kind of hone and craft a finely told story. Whereas with the actual typical battle royal, if you have 20 to 30 guys in the ring at the very start of the match, like, it's just a mess at the start. The first act is always like so painful to watch because the guys have no room to work, literally and figuratively. They've no room to work in the match. And on top of that, any stories you have between participants in these battle royals, it's hard to kind of push forward with them until the second or sometimes even third act in this match. So a few observations from the Andre Battle Royal. So first of all, the main one everyone noticed the second the bell rung was there was no one from NXT. Every year, I think except for the first year, there was someone from NXT. You had Hideo Itami, Baron Corbin, who won that year's Battle Royal, and Killian Dane last year. No one this year. No surprise returns, despite the fact we had a lot of people injured that have gotten the clear to come back by the time Mania rolled around. And there was no returning legends, no Tatanka, no DDP. My heart was broken. So the match itself, for the most part, was a cluster. And in terms of things that were good, positives of it, and you're going to have to note the words I use here. For positives, the first one, well, Mojo Rawley, and you'd probably go, whoa, stop right there, you're talking about positives, and you open with, well, Mojo Rawley, how bad was this thing? No, look, Mojo, he had a really cool elimination on Zack Ryder. He was going for the broski boot, and he was just intercepted by Mojo, who just bulldozed him over the top rope. It was quite a sight to behold. The other positive was you had Goldust, who has been kind of like filling in Big Show's role while he's been out nursing his injury, because you never know whether he's face or heel. Like, he's just week to week, he just seems to be on a different alignment. So I think he was a heel going into this match, and he bumped into his old partner, his former partner who he had turned on some time ago, R-Truth, and they kind of reconcile, they shake hands, and yeah, they're going to go and compete together and help each other get down to the final two. And no, before they can do any of that, Goldust just eliminates him. And what was great about that is Goldust then starts to do a little dance and ends it on a dab. Like, that's like Goldust is in his like mid-40s, late 40s, wearing the Goldust get-up, all the paint, the bleached hair, and dabbing away. It was funny. The only other thing of note, and it's not a critique, it's just an observation, actually came from the commentary. Anyone who watched the match will tell you, man, Dolph Ziggler was just constantly being thrown over the top rope and hanging on for dear life. Although, before I mentioned what I was going to say in the commentary, I think the reason Dolph went for that is because in these huge battle royals, there's so many, there's such a sea of humanity, as they'd say in the ring. They just go for these really wide-angle shots, and it can be hard to make people out. So the only time you'll get a camera angle zooming in close on someone is when they're thrown over the top rope to either be eliminated or to build suspense. So they're hanging on for dear life, they're outside the ring, kind of away from the mass of people, so they can get the camera in and get that shot. And, you know, it's really cool looking, but like Dolph just kept going for it. So I think that is why Dolph constantly kept getting himself thrown over the top rope, just to get more screen time for himself. But the thing I noted about the commentary was, once it got to the point where it was really noticeable how often Dolph was getting thrown over the top rope, Jerry the King Lawler kind of started poking fun at him, saying, oh, well, you know, he mustn't be very good, or he mustn't be aware of how the concept of this match, you're supposed to stay away from the ropes, he's never going to win at this rate. And Jim Ross replies to him, and if you've watched like as much Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler commentary as I and a lot of people would have, you know, they go back and forth. Like, typically Jerry was the colour commentator of the heel, whereas Jim Ross would be the play-by-play face. So Jerry the King Lawler would like attack someone for that, like with Dolph always constantly getting thrown over the top rope, he hasn't a clue what he's doing, and I was expecting Jim Ross to turn around and go, what are you talking about, King? It's an inevitability in a battle royal, everyone's trying to eliminate everyone, and this young man is holding on for dear life because he's got heart and determination. And no. Jim Ross just totally joins in, and I was just like, yeah, King, I have to agree, he doesn't know what he's doing. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I erupted laughing because I thought Jim Ross might defend Ziggler, and nope, he just totally threw him under the bus there. And hilariously, it then panned out Dolph got like eliminated. I can't remember who eliminated him or even how. It was just in one moment he was there, and the next minute, oh, he's gone, bye Dolph, see ya, thanks for coming. So I guess you proved King and JR right with that one. Anyway, the final 3 participants of this match were Mojo Rawley, Baron Corbin, and you know what, I'm just going to call him Matt Hardy, because I can never tell if he's broken Matt Hardy or woken Matt Hardy, or if he's just simply broken Matt, woken Matt. I'll just, until he comes out on TV and specifically clarifies whether we're to call him broken Matt or woken Matt, I'll just stick with Matt Hardy. Anyway, Matt Hardy is the 3rd entrant in this match. Mojo Rawley and Baron start double teaming him. They kind of form this temporary alliance to try and beat down and get rid of Matt. And now the thing I was thinking while watching this was a lot of people had heard, you know, there was this rumor going around that the winner of the Andre Battle Royal this year was going to be a former winner. We were going to get our first 2-time winner. So when you saw Mojo and Baron left, you're like, oh, yeah, I know, I can see where this is going. I was expecting Baron and Mojo to team up on Matt, which they did, but I was then quickly expecting one of them to turn on the other and eliminate them, or at least start infighting, and then it would be down to either Baron and Mojo versus Matt. But none of those things happened. In a somewhat of a surprise, Bray Wyatt showed up out of nowhere. Bray Wyatt, who was last seen on TV for the Ultimate Deletion, where he was defeated by Matt Hardy and subsequently thrown into the Lake of Reincarnation, which, if you know the lore of the Lake of Reincarnation, typically someone who falls in or is thrown in tends to re-emerge as a previous gimmick of theirs. So a lot of, you know, cue the Husky Harris jokes. But no, the only thing that was different about Bray now is he seems to be like free of the shackles of Sister Abigail. It was finally the Bray Wyatt face turn. Like, there were a couple of times where a face turn has been teased over the years, but they always petered out and came to nothing. He went back to his old heelish ways, of course, where he'd call people out, talk a big game, nothing would come of it, and you kind of lose interest then. So this is like the first interesting development in his character in years at this point. He helps Matt to eliminate Mojo and Baron, and there you have it. The winner of the 5th annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal is Matt Hardy. So going forward, and as we saw from Raw, Matt and Bray now have a tag team, so I am actually really looking forward to see where they take that from here. Second match of the card, still on the pre-show, is the finals of the tournament for the vacant Cruiserweight Championship. Cedric Alexander takes on Mustafa Ali, and there was a lot of debating going back and forth on whether this match should be on the pre-show or the main card, because the whole point of this tournament for the vacant championship was to try to kind of reinvigorate interest in the championship, try breathe new life into the 205 Live brand, which you can totally understand, you know, given everything that's happened pretty much since the end of the Cruiserweight Classic. Kind of a soft reboot or a do-over has been needed, and this was exactly what the doctor had prescribed. But a lot of people were kind of worried, because it's like, oh, well, are people going to take it seriously if it's on the pre-show? Now, in hindsight, looking back on the card, yeah, it being on the pre-show was absolutely perfect. You had a lot of people saying it should have been on the main card, that's the only way people will take it seriously, and a lot of people who correctly assumed that if you put that match and placed it onto the main card, it would have gotten so lost amongst all these other matches. There were too many big matches. It would have become a bathroom break match, which the Cruiserweight division deserves better, the Cruiserweight title deserves better, and definitely Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander deserved better. Both were playing faces in this match, and I do have to take a quick moment to mention how amazing Mustafa Ali's entrance costume was. I mean, you may look at it and think it's a bit gaudy or over the top, but by god damn it, it's WrestleMania. Gaudy and over the top is exactly what I want for my Mania. So the match itself was really good. Again, it was really just a face-to-face dynamic, with the story they were telling was they both wanted the best out of each other. They were the heart and the soul of 205 Live were battling it out to find out who will become the champion. So there were really no heel antics. It was quite a respectful match. You had some very cool spots, and actually the crowd, especially by the end of it, were really into it. Like, when I was watching this match, I thought to myself, ooh, maybe they should have put it on the main card. Again, as the main card proved, no, it was in the exact spot it needed to be on the pre-show, but it was great that the crowd reacted in such a positive way, and that the arena was pretty much full at this point. There was none of, now, you know, not a repeat of the Kalisto Ryback pre-show where there was like a couple of hundred people in the arena when it could house like tens of thousands. So you had some 50-50 offense back and forth between the two competitors. Very reminiscent of, if you watch the Cruiserweight Classic tournament, it was kind of a match. As much as it pains me to say, I wouldn't say it would be up there with the top matches from that tournament, but it definitely, you know, reminded me of that. And Cedric Alexander pretty much won me over as a fan for life through his match with Kota Ibushi from that tournament. So it was nice to see kind of a return to form for the division as a whole. Some really cool spots. Now, I'm going to say it now, and I'm not even going to get into it. I'm not a fan of the Spanish Fly maneuver, or the C4, or whatever you call it. It's pretty silly, but I'm not going to lie, when it was hit off the top rope during this match, it looked really cool. Again, not for me. If I was fantasy booking a match, I wouldn't want that move anywhere in there. But when they hit it, it was very cool. Like, I think it's like the only time I popped for a Spanish Fly. Hilariously, won't be the last in the time I do, though, on this card. So yeah, you had the Spanish Flies, lots of aerial diving moves. The match kind of culminates with both of them seeming to be kind of towards, you know, the end of, they're kind of starting to run on empty. They both know that the end of the match is coming up, and they've kind of been on even footing, so it's kind of whoever can hit the next big move wins. And it's actually Mustafa Ali who manages to hit his finisher. Oh, what is it? Hang on now. I'm going to say it's the 405. I haven't watched 205. I haven't watched anything from the Cruiserweights since the Cruiserweight Classic. I watched like a couple of episodes of 205 Live, and it just lost my interest, so I apologise. I can't remember the name. Mustafa Ali, amazing finishing maneuver. So Mustafa Ali actually manages to hit the 405, his like reverse shooting, sorry, his reverse 450 off the top rope. And it looks like he's going to get the 3 count, but Cedric gets his foot on the rope. Cedric's able to rally, hit him with the lumbar check, 1, 2, 3, and Cedric Alexander is the new Cruiserweight champion. It was a really good match. Again, placed perfectly on the card. They told a nice story, and like, this is just the beginning. If you like hinged your viewership on 205 Live 100% on this match, now you should have been given enough to at least intrigue you enough to go back and watch it anyway. But at the same time, knowing that this is the first step, they have the new champion now. You have Drake Maverick in as the GM. They're getting rid of a lot of the stupid, goofy stuff that drove people away from the show in the first place, and they're starting to return back to that kind of classic cruiserweight wrestling, like we saw in the Cruiserweight Classic. So yeah, definitely give 205 Live at least a try after this, because I am super high on Cedric Alexander. He's like one of my favourite wrestlers at the moment. So stoked for him. You know, sad for Mustafa Ali, because he definitely deserved it as well. There were a lot of people who think he should have won it, but you know what, like, both of them kind of came out winners of this. They're both like the 2 top guys now on this 3rd brand, or 4th brand, I suppose, if you include NXT, and now they can kind of plough forward into the future. Good stuff to look forward to. Next match on the card was the first Women's WrestleMania Battle Royale. Pretty much a lot of the things that can be said about the Men's Battle Royal, the Andre Battle Royal, carries over to this. It's hard to tell kind of a cohesive story and to physically perform when you've so many people in the ring. You had funny spots. You had Carmella playing the typical bad guy, stands in the middle of all of the competitors and goes, "Oh, look at me, I'm so so great, and they all just wail on her, pick her up, throw her out. And I'm 99% sure that actually it happened to Dana Brooke next, but I think someone like pushed her into the middle. I think she was like on the outskirts of the circle with everyone else, and I think someone like nudged her in, or something happened and she accidentally stepped into the middle. And it was, you know, it's just like in school, oh, you're in the middle of the circle, alright, you're getting wailed on. So she was gone next. There was this little story kind of going on, like, of NXT versus the main roster, because you had to fill in the space for this battle royal. They had to bring in several women from NXT, so you had the crowd kind of chanting NXT for it, and you had a point where all the main roster women were laid out by the NXT girls, and they all lined up and they all started going NXT with the crowd. And like, I don't know, absolutely, like, it was one of those things where I'm like, that's a cool moment, thanks for doing that, but like, it doesn't really add anything to the match. Like, what are you doing? You should all be eliminating each other, or like eliminating the main roster. Like, eliminate everyone from the main roster, then do your NXT chant. And it's broken up by kind of by Becky Lynch, who is kind of the tragedy in all of this match, but I'll get to that in a moment. It just pure classic Becky. She like spins one of the competitors. I'm very sorry, I can't remember her name. She was wearing this orange dress. She's in an Indian woman who, no joke, was trained by the great Khali. That's not the funny part. The funny part's coming up here. So Becky spins her around and like points at her and goes, "You're wearing orange, that's my thing, no one takes my thing," and the two of them start going at it. Like, it's such a silly thing to take umbrage with, but she just delivered it in such a comedic tone. I loved it. So along with the NXT versus the main roster plotline, you also had several other subplots running along throughout this match, which was a nightmare for the commentary team to try to keep up on and stay on top of while calling the match, because you had Absolution were in the match, and there was kind of they were trying to shine a spotlight on them, how are they going to perform, but you also had the Riot Squad were in the match, they were trying to shine a spotlight on them, how are they going to perform, and then you had these mounting tensions between Bayley and Sasha Banks. How is this all going to come to a head? And like in a Royal Rumble match, you have the time and the space, both figuratively and literally, to work with that and kind of work on each story individually and give them a payoff. But like, Absolution were gone before you know it. Becky Lynch was eliminated. Like, I can't even remember by who. It was just like a blink and you miss. Ah, no, Becky's gone. And yeah, so for the commentating team, which you had Paige and Beth Phoenix, it was great to have the two of them involved. Paige kind of like very passive and not very into her commentary, which of course 24 hours after WrestleMania she announced her retirement. So when you listen, if you're to watch the match and listen to her commentary and think, wow, she would much rather, you know, be in the ring competing than be at the desk doing commentary, well, that's probably because she knew she was going to have to give a retirement speech the next day. So that is very sad. But on a kind of lighter topic, Beth Phoenix, whose commentary I really enjoyed, because like she gave a lot of energy. You know, she was she would try to kind of stay on top of things. She wouldn't let, like, if something happened, she wouldn't just let it slip by and wait for something else. She'd immediately speak up and talk about it. But what had me nuts laughing was every time someone came along, oh, here comes Mickie James. You know, Mickie James has probably had one of the most storied WrestleMania careers, and Mickey's eliminated. Alright, okay, well, you know who's my pick to win? The longest serving veteran in this company right now. Natalia's eliminated. And every time she picked someone, they were just instantly gone. Like, she's like, how's Absolution gonna go? They're both gone as well. But every time she called someone, and then they were instantly eliminated. And I'm not exaggerating, with Natalya, I believe it was mid-sentence that she was eliminated. Just very faintly in the background, you could just hear Paige going, huh. Oh, it just cracked me up. So by the end of the match, you have what appears to be 5 women left. You have the Riot Squad, Bayley and Sasha Banks. The two of them work together to get rid of the Riot Squad, and it's just so it looks like it's down to just Bayley and Sasha, and of course the tensions are mounting, and Sasha goes and offers a hand to shake Bayley, kind of to patch things up. So because in both the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber in previous months, Sasha had turned on Bayley and screwed her over, so I think Sasha was kind of playing it safe, kind of playing to her assumed weaknesses of Bayley, that, you know what, if I offer a hand in friendship, we can have this fun, fair match, and then I can stab her in the back and eliminate her. So they shake hands, and like, it looks like they're going to hug, and then Bayley just grabs her and throws her out of the ring. So like a small amount of revenge for Bayley over everything that's happened between her and Sasha the last few months. A nice development, but the bell doesn't ring, and Bayley's like in the middle of celebrating, but then she turns and looks to see Naomi, who she thought had been eliminated, and even I thought Naomi had been eliminated. I thought she had kind of gotten like the Becky Lynch treatment where she just got dumped out unceremoniously, and it's like, alright, there you go, thanks for coming, happy WrestleMania. But no, she actually didn't go out over the top rope, so Bayley just runs right into like one of like the most impactful rear views I think I've ever seen. Like, it was one of those, you know, sometimes when Naomi hits the rear view, like really drives it into someone, and it kind of simultaneously makes you go, yeah, and oh wow. So after stunning Bayley with the rear view, she picks her up, throws her out of the ring, and then the match is over. Naomi is the winner of the first annual women's WrestleMania Battle Royal. And you know what, like, Naomi is one of the the few top women you would have looked at in the ring and think, oh, like, she definitely deserves it. Like, kind of, for me, the four would have been Naomi, Sasha, Bayley and Becky Lynch. And like, I was very sad for Becky, because if you look at her involvement in the last couple of WrestleManias and then this one, and even how kind of storylines have progressed for her, or lack of storylines have been happening the last few months. It feels like, I could be totally wrong, but it feels like pretty much since WrestleMania the year before, she's just kind of started to drift off a bit, which is very sad. It's just a shame, because she's such a phenomenal talent. So hopefully by next year's WrestleMania they'll have gotten stuff working for her and she can get kind of a big WrestleMania moment, because she definitely deserves another one. Oh, right, I've only done the pre-show now, and oh wow, I've been talking for a long time, so I have to kick things into high gear. Main card, let's do this. The first match of WrestleMania 34's main card is the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. You have The Miz defending his title against Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. And this was kind of like, this has actually kind of become the formula for WrestleMania. Do you remember for a few years you had the multi-man Money in the Bank ladder match would be the opening match on WrestleMania? It was kind of like the workhorse match to get the crowd pumped and into the event, kind of like to get them excited for things to come. Whereas in the last couple of years, it's actually been the Intercontinental title, which has been the workhorse title that features multiple men in the opening match to get them pumped. It's not been for every Mania, but just I've noticed in the last couple of years, it's been increasing in its appearances, which is great, because that's pretty much what the Intercontinental title is. It's the workhorse title, so it's kind of nice to see it kind of returning to its former glory. Seth Rollins is the first of the three men to come out, and he is just clearly like the world's biggest Game of Thrones fan. If you look at like his entrance, he has the whole White Walker thing going on, and then even back to, you know, over the last year or so with his ripcord knee, trying to call it the King's Landing, and him being the Kingslayer after beating Triple H. It's like, yeah, we get it, Seth, you're a Game of Thrones fan. Although it was a pretty cool entrance, like the contacts. Next we have the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, coming out, which gets me excited, because the whether it would be just normal Finn Balor or the Demon Balor had yet to have been really confirmed. Like, you'd assume that if it was the Demon, they would have announced it in advance, but the fact that The Miz comes out second, like, made me thinking, oh yeah, that's it. Yes, we're going to get the Demon at WrestleMania. My god, it's going to take him half an hour to crawl down the ramp, but it's going to be awesome. So The Miz, speaking of awesome, the Miz comes out, there's these weird graphics as they're coming out. I think to like save on practical sets and pyros, they have these like weird CGI effects which sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. I can imagine logistically they were very difficult shots to put together, but probably in terms of time and money it was probably, you know, cheaper than commissioning these giant inflatable bouncy council words that spell out awesome. I don't know. Anyway, it was an interesting, the whole CGI thing, it's the only time I'll mention it. It was interesting. Like with the Miz's entrance, it worked. For Asuka's entrance, it was awful and terrifying looking, and for the New Day's one, it was somewhere in the middle. So hopefully as the years go on, that'll get better, because it is something I'd like to see them expand on. The Miz, while coming out, is accompanied by Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, and he sends the two of them packing. So he's, you know, a changed man. He's now a father. He wants to go down and fight this match properly, and when he sends the two of them off and he starts storming down to the ring going, alright, let's do this, he gets a huge pop from the crowd, which is nice, but he may be in for trouble because it looks like the Demon's next. Except he's not. It's just normal Finn Balor, which, like, you can imagine people may have, like, been hoping, or, well, if not expecting, hoping that the Demon would show up, and Finn Balor just to show up as himself in his leather jacket. Some people might have been angry about it, but you see, they were smart about it, because Finn is doing this very lovely campaign, the Balor Club for Everyone campaign. So he's on his t-shirt, he has the rainbows pattern on it, kind of in support of the LGBTQ community, and like I think it's 20% of his merchandise is going towards that, and it's a campaign that seems to be growing and expanding. So when Finn came out, not in the demon gear, he was flanked by the LGBTQ community of New Orleans. And do you really want to be the guy who boos that? You can just like picture the BuzzFeed article, straight white male, 28, boos LGBTQ community at WrestleMania. Like, you know, the context of the article are going to be bollocks, but you're definitely going to click on it to give it a read. So this match was put together excellently. You had kind of Seth and Finn were trying to start the match slowly, kind of with the chain wrestling and feeling out process, and most people would peg Miz as someone who doesn't stand a chance against them in that. So kind of in the vein of the Miz, he very smartly just constantly kept trying to go for his finisher, because he was just trying to put them away as quickly as possible, because he knew the longer the match went on, the less it favoured him. So that was very smart on his part, and throughout the whole match it was classic Miz. He was just like so slimy, and he was always in the right place at the right time. Like, he was always exactly where he needed to be in order to capitalise on a weakened opponent or to try break up a pin. So very smart on his part. Some of the sequences between Seth and Finn on their own was great. Like I know we had the match at SummerSlam, but unfortunately Finn got his shoulder injured, and they've had a couple of matches on Raw. But like, if we could get just a one-on-one match between the two of them, even like on a B-show pay-per-view where they could just go out and just tear the house down, it would be awesome. So the match builds up back and forth between all three competitors, with all of them hitting their big moves, but they're always being the third man to break up the pin. So the match kind of comes to its climax with Finn Balor hitting the coup de grace on The Miz, but Rollins is able to break up the pin by curb stomping Balor as he's pinning Miz. That causes Finn to roll away. Then Rollins curb stomps The Miz. 1, 2, 3. Rollins is the new IC champion. Really good match, really liked a strong start to WrestleMania, and I hope this tradition of strong Intercontinental Championship matches continues. Second match of the night is the Smackdown Women's Championship as Charlotte defends her title against Asuka. I was kind of hoping this match would happen later on in the night, but looking at all of the matches that this card had, like, someone had to go second, and that just happened to be Charlotte and Asuka. And I will say, before I say another word about this match, for the love of God, just go and watch this match. Like, if you're someone who knows who Charlotte is and you know who Asuka is, you're thinking to yourself, it's going to be like a top tier match, and it is. So just watch them. If you haven't seen it, stop this video, go and watch the match. It's totally worth it. So, about the show itself, for Asuka's entrance, that is when the terrifying CGI effects that like just didn't work. You had her masks floating in the air with these really weird neon strips. No, it's the stuff of nightmares. Like I don't know how anyone approved that. It just no. Charlotte's entrance was the first time of the night where I legitimately got goosebumps watching it, because you had the Space Odyssey theme song playing, but it wasn't the kind of the remix that's done for Charlotte's entrance. It's like the old Ric Flair version of it, and Charlotte is just bathed in all this gold light. She's literally sitting on a throne flanked by like legionaries as she's sitting on her throne as the Queen of SmackDown, as SmackDown Women's Champion. And it was so cool how she had come full circle, because the first time she appeared on WrestleMania was a few years ago, and it was when Triple H was doing a King of Kings entrance, and much like Charlotte was for this, he was sitting on a throne and he had handmaidens, and Charlotte was one of them. She hadn't made her main roster debut. She was used simply as an extra for WrestleMania. So in a few short years, to go being that extra, kind of serving the king on the throne, to being the queen sitting on the throne herself with, you know, her father's music playing, her bathed in this gold light, just with a championship. Oh, I'm getting the goosebumps again just thinking about it. So she stands up, kind of the house lights come up, and then her music hits. She makes her way to the ring for the match with Asuka. This match is like the textbook definition of like a must-see WrestleMania match. It took me maybe 45 seconds into the match before I just got this big smile, started nodding, and went, yep, this match is going to be just as good as I think it's going to be. Some excellent chain wrestling to start off this match. You had both Asuka and Charlotte trying to outmaneuver and overpower each other, and what really set this apart for me from every other Asuka match is this is the one time where it honestly felt like she was taking her opponent 100% seriously, 100% of the time. In any match Asuka has done in the past, pretty much the only reason anyone gets any offense in on her is because she gets so cocky and she drops her guard, or she's taking the piss with the offense she's doing. Like, she's just trying to have a laugh at her opponent's expense, and that leaves her open and vulnerable to a counter attack. And even then, she would just quickly, it's varying on the match, sometimes quickly, sometimes maybe a bit too long, she would rally, and then she'd just metaphorically curb stomp them and win. Whereas with this, she really seemed to be giving it her all against Charlotte the whole match right from the start. They went back and forth, and you had so many cool spots. You had another Spanish fly off the top rope. Yeah, second time it happened in the card. I was amazed by it. You had this unbelievable catch by Asuka, where Charlotte went for a moonsault off the top rope, and Asuka was able to, like, from lying down, turn and catch her in a triangle hold with her legs from a moonsault, which is just mind-boggling, ridiculous. You had Charlotte hit one of the most awesome, impactful spears you'll ever see. You had Asuka with a suplex off the apron to the outside onto the mats on the floor, which looked like it nearly killed Charlotte, but she managed to get back up and get into it. The story outside of that was kind of being told, it wasn't the main theme, but it was something underlining, was very early in the match. Asuka was able to knock Charlotte off the apron into the barricade, and Charlotte's, I think it was her left arm, was sore, and even from kind of by the crowd at the barricade, she was able to look up into the ring, and she could see Asuka smiling and nodding her head and tapping her arm, which was Asuka's way of letting you know, or it's oh, you're someone I have to take seriously, but you have a weak point now, and I'm going to go after that. And which Asuka did throughout the match, but at no point did the injury get so severe, or was Charlotte selling it so bad that it looked like it completely crippled her or hindered her offense. She was still able to keep up with Asuka and fight with her on the same level. She tried multiple times to go for the figure 8, and Asuka just was having none of it. A second she'd grab the foot, Asuka would just start thrashing and kicking and swinging her free leg at Charlotte's head in a really smart move, which I loved. Was she went for the figure 8, it was either 2 or 3 times, and Asuka would just thrash her way out of it. So when the opportunity to go for it a 3rd or 4th time came up, instead of going for the figure 8, she went for a Boston Crab, and because Asuka was expecting her to go for the figure 8, but she went for a different submission, she was able to get it in. Just really, between the Boston Crab and the Spanish Fly, Charlotte was just pulling out stuff we've never seen her do before, and it was great. So we get to the climax of the match, and Charlotte is finally able to lock in the figure 8, and Asuka taps out. And you might think, wow, that's a very quick way to reveal it, Jay, but that's kind of how the match ended. You'd gotten about nearly 13 minutes into the match, she locks in the figure 8. Now, when she's going for the bridge, she can't get it because of the hurt arm. She can't, so she just does it with one arm. She tripods it, as they say, and it's, well, yeah, you know what, the core strength on Charlotte, good luck, trying to bridge like that while taking one of your arms out of it. But yeah, the pain is too much for Asuka, and she taps out 13 minutes into it. The match was shorter than I think everyone would have liked it to have been, but as I said when I was talking to one of my friends about this, it was probably the best paced 13-minute match I've ever seen. At no point did it go too fast or too slow. It had a perfect beginning, middle and end, and it was just a shame that the match didn't get to go any longer. When she got that figure 8 in the first time, ideally people probably would have liked to have seen Asuka escape and then to go, right, you have another 6 or 7 minutes left and this is the final act. But still, they paced it really well. It was such a good match. I'd definitely recommend anyone watch it. Charlotte is the WWE superstar now, to represent the women. It's, you know what, they're clearly putting a lot of their eggs in the Charlotte basket, and it looks like it's going to be such a worthy investment. She could be the first mega female superstar that the company has seen in a long time. So Charlotte is in the ring with her music playing, has her championship, she's won. Asuka rises to her feet, snatches the microphone away from the ring announcer and does a spin on her catchphrase. Her catchphrase is, "Nobody is ready for Asuka." She says, "Charlotte was ready for Asuka, congratulations," and then gives her a big hug, a huge sign of respect. And Asuka was clearly very upset about this, and a part of me was wondering why, whether how much of it was kayfabe and how much of it was real, because she was it's your first Wrestlemania and it is her first loss, so I'm she's going to be upset. But from the way she kind of her approach after the match and what she said, the way she said it, her whole demeanor, I got the impression that while on one hand, yes, she was sad to lose, at the same time I think she was happy she finally encountered someone that could beat her. Anyway, I'm just spitballing here. It could be totally a random thought in my head. It was just something that I noticed while watching. I could be totally wrong on that one. Anyway, it looks like we're ready to move on to the next segment, but out comes a referee to notify John Cena, who was in the crowd. Oh yeah, which, by the way, if you haven't watched WrestleMania, John Cena was sitting in the crowd because he was calling out The Undertaker, and The Undertaker was like, no. Well, he didn't even say no, just no response. Cena wanted a match with Taker, Taker was saying no. Cena said, if I can't have a match at WrestleMania, I'm going to go and join it, sit in the crowd and watch WrestleMania that way. I'm no way I'm missing out on WrestleMania. Good man, John. Nice company, man. But a referee comes running down, hops into the crowd, goes up to Cena and tells him, John, The Undertaker is here. And Cena was actually sitting in the crowd. He had people that he was sitting by and random people he was sitting by and chatting with. And when they hear the referee say, The Undertaker's here, they all rise to their feet. They're all cheering. And then, of course, the rest of the crowd start to realise what's going on. They're all cheering. And Cena's looking around. And all the people like around him in his media vicinity are just like pointing at the ring going, go get him, John. Go get him, John. And he looks around, does it, yeah, alright then, and he runs at the ring and he hops the barricade. He hops the barricade, and you're expecting him to like dive into the ring then, but he just actually runs past the ring and runs up the ramp. And like the crowd, you can see the crowd being like, yeah, get him, John, where are you going? Anyway, of course, in reality, that would make sense. Just because The Undertaker has shown up doesn't mean, like, he showed up in his work. He showed up in his dead man costume and just being like, alright, where's that punk-ass bitch? I'm going to the ring. So yeah, they needed time for before the actual match could take place. Third match on the main card, and 3 title matches in a row as Randy Orton defends his US Championship in a fatal 4-way match against Rusev, Bobby Roode and Jinder Mahal. On paper, I was not looking forward to this match. I was not looking forward to it when it was just initially a triple threat, minus Rusev, and adding Rusev to it, it made me happy for Rusev, but still didn't get me really any more excited for the match. And the problem I had with this is, you have a multi-man match where 75% of the participants are like notoriously slow workers, and I don't mean that as an insult, it's just they work a very methodical style. They're very intentional with every single one of their actions. So if you're someone who likes fast-paced wrestling, you can find these type of wrestlers boring. And when you have 3 of them in a fatal 4-way, it's a case of a fatal 4-way. The whole point is that you're rotating between people a lot. Someone's getting knocked down, they roll out of the ring, you're leaving it with 2 people in the ring, then another person comes back in and you're swapping places. But with this, and you know what, I don't remember anything of note about the match. I remember big smile on my face to see Rusev. I remember everyone chanting Rusev Day. I remember Orton dropping people with RKOs. Like all the things you would imagine would stand, like you'd remember about this match. I remember them, but that's it. And like, part of me had such high hopes because when Randy Orton won the United States Championship, it was the only title that had eluded him thus far. So he was so, you know, you could see it when he won it. He was so happy and he was so willing to kind of, you know, put on his best showing for it. And like, you know how good Orton is when he's really invested, and at the same time, you know how mundane he can be when he's not. And I think by the time WrestleMania had rolled around, he just stopped caring, because when he came out with the United States title and he got to the ring and he got up on the turnbuckle and like he did his pose and all that, like I was looking at him and thinking, man, you're doing that with the same enthusiasm I have when I'm clocking into work in the morning. Like, come on, man, it's WrestleMania, you're the United States champion. Not a personal knock on Randy, it was just everyone was such a slow, methodical worker in this match, and it just reflected kind of poorly on the match overall. Jinder Mahal hit the Colossus on Rusev. 1, 2, 3, Jinder Mahal is the United States champion. Congrats, Jinder. Next match on the card is the mixed tag team match. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon taking on Kurt Angle and the debuting Ronda Rousey. There was a lot of hype, a lot of speculation, and a little bit of skepticism that a lot of people had going into this match. And you know what, I'm just going to get into it. Before we actually talk about the match itself, Ronda's attire, the kind of the tribute to Rowdy Roddy Piper, very touching and a very appropriate attire, and you can see the crowd really did appreciate it. And as she was making her entrance, she was being her happy-go-lucky self, and she was clapping hands with everyone in the crowd as she was walking by. And I know when she debuted, like when she made, sorry, not when she debuted, but when she did her contract signing in Elimination Chamber, a lot of people kind of didn't like how she was so happy-go-lucky. And when she got the microphone, the first words she said was, "Hey guys." And I can understand that, but I think what's going to work really well with Ronda is that she was so happy and, you know, so charming and so personable and so like, oh yeah, definitely, yeah, I'd definitely be friends. You're so cool, you're so nice. And she gets into the ring, kind of takes off takes off Roddy Piper's jacket, gets herself fully into her gear, and just boom, like super serious, like I am going to kill you look on her face. Which, looking at that, is like, okay, that's going to work really well to go from like the happy, hey, how's it going, to you're a dead man or woman. Really great. So anyway, as for the match itself, it starts with Kurt and Triple H in the ring, as of course it did. You know, you got to make people wait for Ronda to get into the ring, and Stephanie just doesn't want to tag in, which totally makes sense because no one wants to tag in with Ronda. And Triple H is doing everything he can to stop Kurt from tagging, and it's resulting in Stephanie getting a lot of cheap shots in. Like, before the bell rung, as Ronda was walking away to go to the corner so Kurt could start the match, Stephanie ran up behind her and like pulled her hair, dragging her onto the ground. And then whenever Triple H would bring Kurt to the corner where Stephanie is, instead of tagging Stephanie in, he'd kind of step back and he'd go up to Ronda, and Ronda would try to get in his face. The referee would be distracted by that, and then Stephanie would be able to wail on Kurt a bit, and that was getting the crowd so hot and heated. And it took a very long time, but eventually he was able to get the tag in on Ronda. So now Stephanie has to get into the ring to face Ronda, and it probably one of like my favourite moments in wrestling probably ever now. Ronda gets into the ring, like sprints full force across the ring, grabs Stephanie, just lamps her like from the apron into the ring, and it's something you see a lot in wrestling, but it was done like with such speed, such ferociousness, and like potentially with such disregard for the well-being of Stephanie. It was amazing. And Stephanie gets up, and Ronda is, I can't even describe it, the speed at which she was throwing like the most convincing looking punches. Like Stephanie just like had her arms up and was just backing in, and Ronda does that to like get her back into the corner and just gets one body shot in, manages to like get past her arms, one body shot which floors her. And Ronda had kind of very smartly in the build-up to this match, like in a sit-down interview, said if she wanted to, the second she gets tagged into the ring with Stephanie, the match is over whenever she wants it to be. She could end the match. She could, like, she said she could break her arm in like 2 seconds, but she doesn't think she'd be that kind to her, which is exactly what she did. She's making her suffer. She's wailing on her, and she's like teasing that she's going to go for the armbar, and you've Triple H getting involved there. And this match is just like, once Ronda gets tagged in, like this whole thing gets taken to another level. Like there were, you know what, like I was gonna say, like I had very high expectations of Ronda going in, and a lot of people did. A lot of people didn't as well. They're like, oh, how much time did she have training? But like, the thing you have to remember is, like, not only is she the former like UFC champion, but she also, like, she's a former Olympian as well. And when you look at WWE with former Olympians coming in, the two names you think of are Kurt Angle and Chad Gable, and those guys took to wrestling like a duck to water, and Ronda did as well. Like, Stephanie could not keep up with her. And I'm not just talking about the UFC punches, any of the actual wrestling, the WWE style maneuvers she was doing. Stephanie just couldn't compete. And while you might think, oh, maybe should they not have gotten, like, you know, Charlotte or Asuka in to fight Rousey, it was perfect for this first one. Just let her kick the crap out of Stephanie. Anyway, getting way too into it here. Triple H keeps breaking it up. He's trying to get pretty much Kurt tagged back in so Stephanie can get out of it. And at this point, it gets to a point in the match where, like, the referee just seems to ignore the whole who's the legal participant or not. Just as people are coming and going in and out of the ring, people are able to do pinfalls whenever they want. And lots of cool spots, and I don't want to go through them all because I'd be here all day. Let me rephrase that. I'd love to go through all the spots, but like, I don't have the time. So after wailing on Stephanie, the other key one to go through is the fact that she wails on Triple H as well. You had a point where Stephanie was down, and it's just Triple H and Ronda in the ring, and Triple H is kind of like, ah, ref, get her out of here, and she's like, nope. Nope, I want you, come on, let's do this. And the referee turns to Triple H and goes, dude, I'm not gonna, like, that's, you can't, it's against the rules, you can't have men versus women. So Triple H goes, no, it's okay, I got this. So, like, he walks up to her really cockily, and wham, she just starts laying into him. It's, like, so satisfying to see Ronda Rousey punch the crap out of Triple H. And she actually, like, she manages to like, what was it, he tries to go for a pedigree. See, there's so many cool sequences and I'm starting to get them mixed up. She manages to do like the John Cena roll through on Triple H, where Triple H is down and she like rolls into him, but she comes up with him on his shoulders, and I don't know how. I wouldn't be able to describe her move efficiently. It kind of reminds me of the John Cena's AA. It's like a Samoan drop mixed with the AA. As her finisher, she hits that on Triple H. She goes for the armbar, actually locks it in on Triple H, and honest to God, if it was up to me, I would have had Triple H tap out. I definitely would have had it just at the WrestleMania ends, and the next day it's like on the news articles, Ronda Rousey makes Triple H tap out in the middle of the ring. It would have been great, but it's another false finish. A lot of false finishes. It builds to a climax with Stephanie and Ronda being left alone in the ring. Stephanie, who was a lot better at blocking Ronda's armbar than she had any rights to be. I know they did the thing of she'd been training for this match and she'd been talking with specialists so she would know how to counter Ronda's moves, but every time Ronda would get her down on the ground and try to get her arm free for the armbar, like Stephanie would like lock her arms to try like block it, and it was fine. Like if it happened once for a few seconds, and that would have been okay, and even like the way it was built up, Ronda was able to get her head in under the arms and pretty much start to stand up, which would force the arms to separate so she could apply the armbar. And it was, as Stephanie was screaming for mercy, it was like a very awesome way to build up this really climactic finish to the match. But it's just in the meantime, as we were getting from point A to B, she did block it way too often and for way too long. Anyway, she gets it in, makes Stephanie tap out at the end of the match. It was great. You know, I think in terms of like excitement levels, it was like probably the best match of the night. Now, if I was to talk about best match overall, hands down it goes to Charlotte and Asuka. But in terms of excitement levels, like I was so pumped I could see even talking about it. I did a terrible job describing the match. It was just amazing. Welcome to the WWE, Ronda Rousey. Like, you are so welcome here. Like, you're fitting in like just fine. You had one match against Stephanie McMahon. It was like one of the greatest things we've ever seen. With all the excitement generated from Ronda Rousey's in-ring debut, something had to come next which would allow the crowd to kind of calm down and cool off. And on one hand, we've got something really cool, really awesome here. You have the Smackdown triple threat match for the tag team championships. And what's really cool about this is finally, after 10 years of grinding, the Usos finally make it onto the main card as WrestleMania, and they make it there as the SmackDown tag team champions after being the dominant SmackDown tag team champions for a year now. They are probably the guys on this whole card that deserved it the most, that scratch that had earned that the most. So once the match began to start, I was so happy for them. And unfortunately, this match is a squash match. Well, it's not that they get squashed, it's just you have the Bludgeon Brothers are going for the tag team championships. It's Eric Rowan and Luke Harper, and you have them, the Usos, and the New Day, and Eric and Rowan. Eric and Rowan. Oh my God, that's like JBL. I think it was JBL used to make that mistake all the time. Rowan and Harper just ran roughshod over the other two teams and won in like 5 minutes with a powerbomb off the top rope. So great for the Usos to kind of finally get a position on the card that is reflective of their stature and work ethic. At the same time, it's a shame the match was done in such a way. Now, given its position on the card and the kind of character build and the story development that had been happening with the Bludgeon Brothers, it kind of needed to be like that. So let's hope this will be like the first of many WrestleManias where the Usos appear on the main card, and which each year they'll get a more and more prominent showing. Following that, we have John Cena making his way to the ring. JoJo announces that this is a match and it is scheduled for one fall. There is an official in the ring waiting for John, so of course, yes, The Undertaker, it's going to happen. But before it can, a second referee comes down the ramp, and the whole time Michael Cole is asking, is the match going to happen? Is the match going to happen? Despite the fact Cena's in his wrestling gear, his entrance music played, the ring announcer said, this is a match, and there's a referee in the ring with John. Then when the second referee enters the referee enters the ring to talk to John to tell him the match isn't happening, Michael Cole goes, a referee has entered the ring, is the match happening? Does this mean the match is happening? It's like, no! No, this is like the first bit of evidence we've gotten in the last 30 seconds that would make us think the match isn't happening. So anyway, John's told the match isn't going to happen, and then Elias comes out to serenade the crowd, Cena goes to leave. Of course, like Elias, incredibly entertaining. This is killing time though at this point. I'm being honest. Like, it was like, I think they wanted, like, there were rumors about all the different sketches they were thinking of doing with Elias. But they clearly wanted to do something with Elias, so it was a good way to kill time. Again, letting the crowd cool off more, because we've had some phenomenal matches prior to this, and as an audience, like, if you've been to a wrestling show, even especially a long wrestling show, you know, if all the matches are excellent, you get burned out. So you do need these things to kind of cool down, to regain your kind of energy, so you can be, you know, all in for the main event. Anyway, Elias, I can't even remember, he sang about something, and then Cena came in and shoulder tackle, backdrop, 5-knuckle shuffle, attitude adjustment, and he kind of, you know, Elias is taken out, and Cena kind of pauses as if to go, like, you know, come on, Taker, I'm here, but no, there's nothing. And then Cena's music starts to play, so he's all dejected, and he goes to leave the ring, and he's halfway up the ramp to the back, and the lights go out, and you have the gong, and yes! Yes, 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 yes. Oh, it's another Goosebumps moment of the night, and The Undertaker made his return, not as the American Badass as rumoured, just as the Dead Man. He makes his way down to the ring, his you know, the Phenom, the Dead Man, The Undertaker, like the leader of the locker room with his almighty entrance. He gets in the ring, stares down John Cena, who subsequently pisses his pants at the sight of the Dead Man. The bell rings, and this is the one match I'm going to go through it blow by blow with you, right? Okay? Match starts, Cena approaches Taker, Taker lunges at him, just starts laying into him in the corner, manages to hit John Cena with a running, like, jumping clothesline, picks him up, snake eyes in the corner, big boot, leg drop, old school, goes for a chokeslam, but Cena was able to jump out of it, hit him with a backdrop. Cena goes to go for the 5-knuckle shuffle, and as he's running against the ropes, Undertaker does his sit up, which scares Cena, causes him to fall down. The two of them rise to their feet at the same time, choke slam, signals for the end, spin them around, tombstone, 1, 2, 3. The Undertaker squashed John Cena in, honestly, half the time it took him to walk down the ramp to the ring. Michael Cole keeps calling The Undertaker is back, The Undertaker is back, yeah, and it's, you know, whether this means he'll now be making appearances outside of WrestleMania or what. This is like the third time they've been screaming from the rooftops that The Undertaker's back, and he just tends to piss off for extended periods after that. Which, to be fair, he's The Undertaker. He can do whatever the hell he damn well pleases. This was sort of like, it was such a feel-good moment. Now, the Undertaker's retirement at the previous WrestleMania, like, it was very poetic and very fitting, and it was done so tastefully, and like, it was just one of those times in wrestling where something actually got a perfect ending. Where, like, in wrestling, things never end, it just keeps on going and going and going. So, if you were to say, I don't like the fact that he came back for one more match, I'd agree with it, but at the same time, as perfect as the ending was, it doesn't change the fact that the match he had with Roman Reigns was really bad. So, I think this was just a way to kind of correct that. Like, he could never wrestle another match again, and it would be fine. Like, he kind of got the, you know, the mystique kind of wore off with the match with Roman, but with this, it was just like John Cena doing a favour for The Undertaker. It's like, here, dude, put on your gear, come down to the ring, kick my ass and pin me in under 3 minutes, and, you know, that's it. That's that way. That way, if that is the last time we see The Undertaker, we get to see him as The Undertaker we remember, not like this broken down man that was struggling to stay to his feet. So, you know, I suppose if you wanted to, you could, like, watch the Cena match, then put on the Reigns match, cut out that match, and then just, like, go to the finish, and that's it. So, I know, I think, like myself, like a lot of people who all agreed that was a perfect retirement for The Undertaker right there and then, but then the second he shows up, it's just like, yeah, he's back, that's cool, let's do it. After we all got the pleasure of watching The Undertaker do what? Oh, that's right, beat up John Cena, it's time for Daniel Bryan to make his triumphant return, which, hang on now, like, hang on, so you have Charlotte and Asuka have this amazing match, Ronda Rousey makes her in-ring debut, and it is, like, better than, like, anyone could have ever possibly imagined it would be. Undertaker's back, and now we have Daniel Bryan returning. This WrestleMania is turning out to be awesome so far. Anyway, So I'm not going to go into the story of this match because I actually did a video. Yeah, I got the shamelessly plug one of my other videos. I'll link it in the description, talking about Daniel Bryan's return and the build to this match. The match itself, very straightforward Shane O'Mac entrance, very straightforward Daniel Bryan entrance. Seeing him in his ring gear, it's that's like a Goosebumps moment number 3 right there at the night. That was just, I had the biggest smile on my face. I could not stop smiling watching Daniel Bryan just simply making his entrance in his ring gear. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn look to come out together. The graphic shows the two of them side by side, but it's just Kevin Owens music playing, so it looks like they're going to come out as a tag team. Bryan and Shane are looking up the ramp, but they actually come in from behind and assault them. Now, of course, actually something I didn't mention in the Daniel Bryan video, which I'll quickly touch on, is that Shane McMahon was diagnosed with diverticulitis and a hernia. I don't know the exact specific, but a hernia as well. So, like, Shane's in like pretty rough condition going into this match. It's actually tied into the story pretty smartly, because you have Zayn and Owens assault the two of them from behind, but because Shane's in a rough spot, it doesn't take a whole lot to put him down, which allows them to focus on Daniel Bryan. Owens is able to hold him, Zayn hits him with a haluva kick, then you have the powerbomb onto the ring apron, so Daniel Bryan it looks like he's out of commission. And we all know Daniel Bryan, he's not, but like in kayfabe, that's like a potential career killer right there. So all that's left is Shane. Shane's calling for medical personnel to come out and assess Daniel Bryan. Shane's winded and hurt himself, but he still wants to do this, so he gets into the ring. And what we do get is way too long a period of time of, look how tough Shane is and look at how he can hang. I'm not saying, a lot of people saying, oh, Shane shouldn't have even had that in the first place, but like, you get it, with Shane and his character and all he's given, you know, give him his moment where he can be where he can be the tough McMahon, but at the same time, like, it had no right to go as long as it did. And I'm not talking in even like a kayfabe sense where it's like, oh, he shouldn't last that long. Like, it's in just from like a viewpoint, viewers watching it, it's like very quickly we got the point. The story that was being told by Shane, Zayn and Owens while we were waiting for Daniel Bryan to recover could have been done in like half the time. And you know what they could have done with that time? They could have given it to Charlotte and Asuka. There you go. Boom, problem solved. Armchair Booker, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I don't even really remember. Like, Shane hits the coast to coast on Sami, but he's just too wounded. Like, fair play to him, he's a goddamn trooper, but like, that's all I can really recall from. Oh, no, something else I do remember. There is a point where he gets either Sami or Owens, I can't remember which one, he gets them into the corner and he's doing his punches like he does. And you know what? Like, I wouldn't say I have defended the worked punches Shane's thrown, but I'm not nearly as harsh as anyone I know. In a previous video, 2K video I did kind of poke fun at it a little, but like, I never ragged on it so hard as everyone did, because I was like, oh come on, it's like, it's wrestling, it's, we know it, like, it's not as bad, it's not as like as bad a case of a scenario as people make it out to be. But having seen Ronda Rousey and The Undertaker throwing hands, especially Ronda Rousey earlier on, to see Shane with his little rabbit punches, I just exploded laughing with how bad they looked by contrast. Anyway, it gets to the point where Owens and Zayn look like they have Shane beat, but of course Bryan comes back. Bryan makes his way to the ring post, and again, honestly, I think everyone would have liked it if the second Bryan popped back in to break up that pin and then ran to the turnbuckle and held his hand out for the tag. I think everyone would have liked it if it was just like within 3 seconds and he was in, but so you had to wait a little bit. But Shane was able to counter whatever Sami was going for, hit him with a backdrop in a really smart move, which I'm surprised I haven't like seen this. I don't think I can't recall having ever seen it myself, and why it hasn't cropped up yet. Shane, he's too much of a pain in his stomach, and he can't, like, his core strength is totally gone, he's in agony, he can't crawl to make the tag, but he's close to the ropes, so he actually, while lying down, just grabs onto the ropes and he pulls on them to bring himself up to Bryan, who tags in, and Bryan tags in, and it was so good to see him back in the ring. He was pulling out all his ultra. He was, first of all, he was working at a mile a minute. He was working like, running and moving so fast and hitting so hard. Like, he didn't dial down the intensity at which he works at. Like, a lot of people, myself included, like, were thinking, okay, well, given all his injuries, he's going to tone things down in the ring. He has to for the sake of his health. But no, what it looks like is he's working just as intense a style, but he's being smarter with how he goes about it. And what I noticed with that was when he got to a point where Owens was on the outside and Bryan was going for a suicide dive, which as a fan who's just concerned for his health, I wish he would do. I hoped he would never do that move again. And when he ran for the ropes, I thought, oh no, he's going to do the suicide dive. Like, that's one of the moves that got you injured in the first place. But no, instead of doing the suicide dive, he did the baseball slide, which was a much safer move. Fun fact, the baseball slide, like, on the underneath, like, the bottom rope, or even if you do it in between the bottom and middle rope onto an opponent outside the ring, I always hated it because, like, it looked so weak. It looks so weak, because like to do it safely so you don't actually your opponent in the face, you kind of have to do it that way. And I don't know if Bryan legitimately kicked Owens in the head with it, but by God, it was the most awesome looking baseball slide I've ever seen. Like, it was the most intense, most like high speed, high impact baseball slide. And if Bryan's just going to do that instead of the suicide dive, I'm all in. And like, he can be the king of the baseball slide. Bryan makes his way to the top and hits a missile drop kick on Sami Zayn, and that was another one of the moves which I'd hope he would never do again, because even that one, we got to see it live on TV, how that move negatively affected him during a match with Randy Orton. He like lost the ability to move his left arm and he could barely stand, and the whole match had to be called off. And when he hit that drop kick and slammed down into the mat, I think he was trolling, and I hope to God he was just trolling, because he's laid still, like really still and rigid, like he did when he hurt himself, and he kind of like even put his hands on the back of his head. Like, oh no, he's after hurting himself again. But then he like moves his hands and he does the kip up. Like, oh, he was just trolling us. Little shit. Anyway, it looks like Bryan has things well in hand, but because he's pretty much on his own with Shane out of commission, I get it, because he's the commissioner, Zayn is able to hit a hell of a kick. Second one he's taken. 1, 2, Bryan kicks out. Zayn tags in Owens, pop-up powerbomb, 1, 2, Bryan kicks out. Zayn tagged back in, and Owens is actually able to be distracted by Shane, who's like recovers enough to hit one big move on him. Owens is outside the ring and he just dives off the ring apron, clothesline to take him out, leaving Bryan and Sami alone to duke it out. Sami starts throwing rights at Bryan. 1, 2, and on the third punch, Bryan no-sells it. And it's one of those weird thoughts where I had like the day after I watched Mania. It's like, you know what, if Roman Reigns was ever booked like that, we would burn the building, like the audience would burn the building to the ground. Like, if he was against someone as popular as Sami Zayn, and he had that, he took all those finishers and stuff that's meant to, you know, in kayfabe, have you injured and out for weeks, only to come back into the match, take more finishers, kick out, and then just to start no-selling offense whatsoever, we'd all riot. But you know what, here's the thing, when people no-sell like that, I don't think in wrestling it's that it's a bad thing. It's just you have to pick the character that people want to see succeed at such a level, because the crowd went nuts for it. And yeah, then Bryan just murdered Sami in the middle of the ring, running the yes lock. Sami taps out, and that's it. Bryan and Shane win. And oh, I forgot to mention the stipulation, because they lost, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are fired permanently from Smackdown, and yes, they would show up on Raw the next night. They're lobbying for a job there, but we'll have to see how the story goes. So with Daniel Bryan having returned, Wrestlemania is just riding at an all-time high, and then the rest of the pay-per-view kind of happens. So the next match is Alexa Bliss defending her Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax, and the story leading into this has been Alexa has been body shaming Nia, which, here's the thing, a lot of people straight away said, I don't like the story, and you know what, I didn't like the story either, but I think it's possible to do, not necessarily a body shaming or a fat shaming centric story, but to do a story where someone's being bullied because they look different, or they act different, or because they believe in different things. I think it's possible in wrestling to do that story, but as WWE had kind of proven in the past, and with the build up to this storyline, they just lacked the subtlety or, you know, any sort of nuance to pull it off. It was just, ha ha, you're fat and ugly, and then Nia would cry, and then she'd vow she was going to kill Alexa, and yeah, then we have this match. So for the match itself, like at the very beginning, you had a lot of Nia taking out Mickie James, Alexa's friend, on the outside, which hilariously, the first body shaming or fat shaming storyline they did with women years ago, actually it was Mickie James who was the centre of the fat shaming, despite the fact which, if you look at her now or you look at her back then, dude, who thought she was fat? I don't know. Someone who probably got a slap at some point. Probably deserved it. Anyway, so Nia takes out Mickie James, and a lot of people myself included, something I've said like 12 times so far in this video, thought that once Mickey was taken out, it would just be a matter of seconds because Nia was just going to kill Alexa. And like, I know they wanted to I think it was just to build more sympathy for Nia by having Alexa be able to get her down and work on her leg, but just the size difference, I kind of laughed a little. Like, they were doing their best, but like at points it looked funny watching like Alexa trying to maneuver Nia's arm. It's like, dude, you're like 1/3 the size of her. Like, you could stand on her and it wouldn't affect her. Am I body shaming her now? Like, I'm not saying it as an insult, I'm just like saying factually, if someone that much smaller than you started doing the type of offense Alexa was doing, it wouldn't really have any effect on you. So the match went on a lot longer than it probably should have. That's another match we could have cut a few more minutes. Yeah, cut a couple of minutes off the look how tough Shane McMahon segment is, and cut a couple of minutes out of the Alexa somehow like physically getting the upper hand on Nia, and put that into the Charlotte Asuka match. The Charlotte Asuka match is going to be like 45 minutes long through my book, and by the end of this video. Anyway, then just Nia gets the best for it. There was one really cool moment where, because like Alexa was constantly pulling at her hair and grasping at her eyes, which that offense was working, but it was just when she had Nia down and was able to keep her down and working on her leg, it's just like, you're not strong enough to do it. What are you doing? Anyway, a cool moment where Nia rallies and like roars at Alexa, and Alexa goes and just gives out like this terrified little girl scream and goes to run away. Huge laugh from the crowd. I cracked up at it. The match ends with Nia hitting a Samoan drop off the second rope. 1, 2, 3, and Nia Jax is the new women's champion, and fair play to her, it's well earned. And I was so happy to see like the crowd, who were so tired at this point in the night because of just how much wrestling they've watched, how much good wrestling they've watched. They gave her like the applause that she had well earned, and it clearly means a lot to her. And she can move on now as the Raw Women's Champion. And now we get to kind of the meat of Mania. We're getting to main event time. 3 matches left. Next match, Smackdown Heavyweight Championship, the WWE Championship. Champion AJ Styles defends the title against Shinsuke Nakamura. And I know at this point you're thinking, oh good God, Jay, how long are you going to talk about this match? I don't know, but I don't think nearly as long as you'd expect, because in a nutshell, this match was not nearly as good as it should have been. Not nearly as good as it should have been, even less so than what people wanted it to be. And when you were watching the match, I don't know how long, because I'd say maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes into the match, and I just had this thought of, uh-oh, like, unless this match is going to go on for another 50 minutes and they're very slowly building up to it, if this is all we get, we're in trouble here, because like this is the dream match. This was match of the night. If you were someone who only watched WWE, like, this was going to be the match of the year. And it just wound up being not that good. And it's not that there were things were done wrong or anything like that. It was a really good WrestleMania match they had. It's just for AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, people expected a whole lot better. And the only thing in the match that really stood out to me was at the very end. The story they were doing was AJ had been working on Shinsuke's knee because Shinsuke's finisher is the Kinshasa, the running knee strike. So like Shinsuke had to overcome that over the course of the whole match. There were times where he just would lose his footing or was unable to get to execute any of his signature offense because of the leg, but he was able to overcome it, get AJ on his knees on the ground, and he goes for the Kinshasa knee strike. But like AJ was, I can't even describe it, but like he like leans back, he kind of leans like it back to dodge the knee strike, but is able to grab Shinsuke, roll him through into a standing position in the Styles Clash, and drops him 1, 2, 3. Styles wins with the Styles Clash. One thought, when he rolled through into the Styles Clash position, I had actually 2 thoughts in my head. One was, holy shit, that was an excellent counter. And 2, Styles, why are you going for the Styles Clash? Because 1, 2, 3, oh my god, he won with the Styles Clash. Like, the Styles Clash for AJ Styles is like the spirit bomb for Goku. It's like something he always goes for. But like, it never bloody worked. Like, it worked one time. And in this case for AJ, it worked at WrestleMania on Shinsuke Nakamura. And like, awesome finish. The match, like, I suppose given the quality of the match, it was long enough, but people would want a match between the two to go on longer, and just for there to be more. But this is when we get a negative and turn it into a positive, because at the end of the match, once the match was all said and done, Shinsuke takes the title. The referee's going to give the title to the winner, AJ Styles, and Shinsuke takes it. And I'm thinking, oh, just like with Asuka and Charlotte earlier on, because it's what's like embedded into them when you learn how to wrestle in Japan. He's going to be respectful and hand the title and congratulate him, just like with Asuka and Charlotte earlier. So Shinsuke approaches AJ, gets down on a knee, and like presents the title to him, and AJ kind of takes the title, thanks him, and like goes to pose with the belt, and then Shinsuke just whoop, like punches him right in the balls. Styles crumbles to the ground, and even I'm someone who likes Shinsuke Nakamura so much that when I was watching AJ Styles crumple to the ground with this look of why on his face, I was just thinking, he hasn't turned heel yet. Like, he's still a good guy. And as AJ's like trying to roll to get out of the ring, Nakamura's just like stomping. Like, well, not even stomping, he's just kind of like flicking his foot out and kicking his head. Like, really scumbag, just kicking him. Styles rolls to the outside, and then like Nakamura hits him with the Kinshasa then. And I go, okay, yeah, no, he's definitely gone heel. Like, this isn't being an anti-hero or having an edge. Like, he just punched the guy in the dick, kicked him in the head a few times, and then kneed him in the head like from a full-blown sprint. And this is where the positive's going to be. There's going to be another match between the two of them at some point. And there's going to be a proper heel-face dynamic between the two, and there's now a story. AJ has a reason to be really pissed and want revenge on Nakamura, and Nakamura's just a bollocks now, apparently, so he's going to want to take that title. Whereas for Mania, the build-up was, well, the fans really want to see this match. They're both nice guys, so, there'll be more, the stakes will be higher going into the next encounter, and if they do, even a part of me is thinking they might do multiple. It's not just there'll be one more match, there might be 2 or 3 more matches after that. So if they're doing this and each match is building and escalating, it's going to be as awesome as people know it can be and as people want it to be. So that I am really excited for. I will take a good match, but not nearly as good as we expected match between the two at Mania if things keep going the way they are. Oh, Jesus, right. I've been at this for quite some time. Second last match of the night. It's Braun Strowman with a mystery partner taking on the Raw Tag Team Champions, The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus. Cesaro and Sheamus come out first. They're in a New Orleans float. Yeah. Celebrate. Throw out the beads. And they come down. Braun comes out by his own. Scares off all the Burger King mascots that Cesaro and Sheamus had for their entrance. And he pushes their float off the ramp, destroying it. Cool. Makes his way down to the ring, grabs a microphone, and says, my tag team partner's not in the back. It's out there in the crowd. It's one of you. And you might be thinking, if you haven't seen the show or haven't heard, you might think I'm BSing. Yeah, I'm not. So Braun announces that someone in the crowd is going to be his tag team partner. He goes, who wants to be my WrestleMania? Oh, yeah, no, I shouldn't try. I haven't gotten proper vocal training. I shouldn't be trying stuff like that. So yeah, he goes out into the crowd looking for someone, and I would love to do a sketch on this and like build it up and do a joke, but like honestly, I've been standing at this camera talking for so long. I think it's just appropriate I just go through this as bluntly as possible, and plus everyone else has done the same. He goes into the crowd, picks a 10-year-old kid, goes back to the ring and goes, right, I'm having the match with the 10-year-old kid as my partner. So they go on to, Braun obviously starts the match, he's fighting Cesaro and Sheamus, but the two of them teaming up on him eventually manages to wear him down. In a moment of comedic genius, Sheamus manages to actually give Braun a good wallop, and he falls to the ground, and he's like stunned, and the only thing he knows is, I'm in a tag team match, and he crawls, and he reaches out his hand, and the 10-year-old tags himself in. Nicholas gets into the ring, goes to like confront Cesaro, who Sheamus is now tagged in, and Cesaro's kind of like having fun with him, like as if this kind of, but not in the, oh, you're like a kid, he's kind of like a, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna kill you. And then at this point, Braun kind of snaps out of his whatever stupor Sheamus had smacked him into, and he kind of realizes, oh crap, the kid tags himself back in, brawls with Cesaro a little bit, running power slam, 1, 2, 3. Braun Strowman and a 10-year-old kid named Nicholas, and I think a lot of people are highballing his age by saying 10 years old. Anyway, those two are the tag team champions, and I watched this, I was like, what the f*** are they doing? Like, they just buried the tag team champions and the town championship and the whole division. I'm like, don't get me wrong, this was hysterical, but like at the expense of the entire division, the champions and the titles, no. But the next night in Raw, Strowman brings Nicholas into the Kurt Angle's office, and they both relinquish the title because they can't defend it due to Nicholas's scheduling conflict. Because you see, he's still in the 4th grade. But Braun promises, once he's finished with school, we're coming back for those titles. Oh, so like it's something that's hilarious, but at the same time, this was done as kind of a soft reset because you see the Bar had been so dominant; they'd beaten everyone on the Raw Tag Team division, and simply bringing one team up from SmackDown or one team up from NXT or moving the Bar to SmackDown wasn't going to cut it. So by having them vacate the titles, and there's like a mini elimination kind of tournament going on, yeah, new tag teams can be introduced, and they can kind of re-push older tag teams that might have lost some of their shine. So it's kind of like, you know, it was something that was done that was hilarious and could potentially actually work out to be an amazing reboot for the entire division. So, you know what, I'll give them props on that one. That's hilarious and actually kind of smart when you think about it. Well, here we are. It's the main event. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. This match was shit. It was utter cack. Right, here's what happened. Brock and Roman did like nothing but the same moves. It was just German suplex by Brock, Superman punch by Reigns, belly to belly suplex by Brock, Superman punch by Reigns, F5 by Brock, spear by Reigns. That was like the only offense aside from the punches or the Irish whips. So, like in terms of actual like moves, that was it. You had like 5 moves between the two, and it would have been fine if it was like as short as the Goldberg-Lesnar match from the year before, but it wasn't, and the crowd would turn on this match. Like, Roman isn't the anointed one. Like, you know, I won't get into that. If you're watching this video, you know what that story is. And Lesnar was reportedly leaving for UFC, so like this was, it wasn't, the crowd didn't turn on the match. Like, they weren't booing it as much as they booed Brock Lesnar and Goldberg's first WrestleMania match from 20 when the both of them were leaving as well. But the thing was, it was met with like a ton of like just silence. Like, it's just, this match is happening. Look, another Superman punch, another F5. And then whenever like they were doing something, whenever Brock or Roman tried to do something to build like interest from the crowd to get them hyped, it would just be boos, and there was this is awful, boring, all that. And you know what, the chance that they were all right. And here's like the most bollocksy part of it all. You know how like for the last year they decided all of a sudden the F5 is Brock Lesnar's finishing move is a move that's protected. Maybe not everyone should kick out of at least one. So Braun Strowman, his first showdown with Brock, 1 F5, he's done. Samoa Joe, his first showdown with Brock, 1 F5, he's done. 5 F5s to Roman Reigns, and he kicked out of all of them. Ugh. It was just an utter nonsense. Like, remember when I mentioned in the Bryan review where I said, like, if the amount of offense Bryan took and he shrugged it off that well, like, was done by Reigns, we'd be saying it's bollocks. But, like, this is being done by Reigns, and it actually was bollocks because it's so much worse. Like, Braun Strowman, like, Roman Reigns once locked him in an ambulance and crashed the ambulance, and they had to get the fire brigade to do the jaws of life. Oh, and kayfabe, of course. The jaws of life to get Braun out of the fire or the ambulance, and he walked out of his own accord. And it took 1 F5 for Brock to pin Braun. And yet 5 and Roman's still kicking out. It's, you know what, I will admit, like, this is like, you know, people trying to make sense of Dragon Ball Z power levels. You probably shouldn't think about it too much, but like, oh, and it was just the fact it was the only moves they did. 3 of the F5s were in a row. F5, 1, 2, Roman kicks out. Second F5, 1, 2, Roman kicks out. Third F5, 1, 2, Roman kicks out. And Brock's like, oh, what the hell? Like, it was all just boring, uninteresting, until we got to the very end of the match. At the very end of the match, Brock took off his gloves, which, as a friend of mine pointed out, he was going to go for his elbow strikes. Like, he doesn't wear an elbow pad. He was going to go for his like bare elbow strikes on the head of Roman, and like he took off his gloves. You know, as if that was somehow going to make his elbow strikes more effective, which I was thinking, maybe he's Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z, because I've like made a couple of anime references. Keep it going. Maybe he's like Piccolo, the like weighted gloves, and when he takes them off, his like ki increases by 25% or something. I don't know. So, shades of SummerSlam with his match against Randy Orton. Brock busts Roman open with 3 really like stiff, but like it was like jagged swipes with his elbow to cut open the top of his head. And mother of God, Reigns bled so much and so badly. Like when he was he was lying there, and like the shot of him of his head, it's like, oh, he had a cut like on his hairline, and it's like, oh, it's not that bad. And the camera moved, and you could see the blood wasn't pouring down his face; it was pouring down his arm. And his arm was just coated in blood. And then as like Reigns sits up, the blood just all down his face. And as he was like fighting with Brock got covered in blood as well. Like just by like making like brief physical contact with him, Brock was just covered in blood as well. So, but this is like, you know, like the native perk of being a Samoan. You see your own blood and you just lose your shit. And he just starts wailing on Brock, hits him with 2 spears, 1, 2. Brock kicks out, but Roman hops back up. He will not be beaten. He will not be deterred. He lets out his mighty roar. And like how he beat The Undertaker, where he went for like a multiple bounces off the ropes to really build up speed before the spear, goes for that on Brock, but Brock catches him, hoofs him up, F5 for a 6th time. 1, 2, 3. Brock Lesnar defeats Roman Reigns and retains his Universal title. What? Okay. So a lot to unpack from here. So the first thing obviously is Brock re-signed with the WWE, and he's not going to UFC yet. You heard that here first. Yes. Second of all, I don't know. I guess because the crowd had turned on anyone could have guessed the crowd were going to turn on the main event as badly as they did. So maybe they, like with Rollins' cash-in with the first Roman and Reigns. God, what's wrong with me today? For the first Roman and Brock match where Rollins cashes in, they call that same kind of audible. The crowd are going to turn on this main event. We can't have WrestleMania close out like this. It can't be like the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia all over again. No way. So we'll have Brock retain. And yes, the crowd did very briefly all go, yay! Oh, wait a minute, we're still mad. Boo! Like, they cheered for Brock pinning Reigns, but then it was the fact that this match was even happening. And I think after that, like, people had resigned themselves to the fact that Reigns is going to win. It's like, okay, you know what? Reigns is going to win. It's over. Let's move on now. Let's do something different. Let's move on from this. So, but no, we're stuck with Brock, and Roman's going to get another match 2 weeks' time at the WWE Network special airing live from Saudi Arabia, which is taking place on a Friday. So I might actually watch that and do a review for that, because I might be able to work in some time for that. And yeah, I don't know. Will Roman beat Brock at the rematch? I don't know. I don't know. Roman is pulling a Jericho and he's doing a conspiracy. I want to see Roman going to Congress and just being like, "There's a conspiracy to keep the title off me. Vince McMahon's to blame." Yeah, mental, absolute madness. I like the show started off. Okay, so yeah, I'm done with the main event now. Like, just yeah, it happened. Cool. You know, like it's a mixed bag of a pay-per-view. It's one of those pay-per-views where, like, honestly, like looking at it, it's a 5-hour the main card's 5 hours long. First 3 hours, maybe even 3 hours and 20 minutes are awesome. They're great. Like, definitely recommend anyone watch them. In fact, everyone watch them. Let's all go and do that now. But once we get to the Alexa Bliss Nia Jax match starts, and it's not like it's not that match is the cause or the catalyst or anything. It's just that's kind of the first one where it's just like, okay, so that's, you know, hopefully that's as low as the card's going to get. Again, not to say that it was bad, it was good, it was just everything kind of before it was great. And then you have the Styles Nakamura, again, good match, like a perfectly serviceable WrestleMania match, but could have been better. Braun's bit, hilarious, side-splittingly funny, but like, you know, it's the second last thing in Mania. I suppose a bit of humour to break up the 2 title matches, yeah, but and Raw kind of remedied any kind of ill will I had towards it, but it was still at the time kind of like, grr, what are they doing with the tag titles? And then the main event can just fuck off. So yeah, I'm not going to do any grade scores because or any percentage scores or overall scores or star ratings. I'm going to give WrestleMania a 34, a rating of watch the NXT TakeOver New Orleans before you watch that. Then watch up as far as the Alexa Bliss title defense, and then you're golden. Where things go from here, I don't know, because between running this YouTube channel and work and my personal life, I actually don't have the time to watch full episodes of Raw or Smackdown, and sometimes even NXT. In fact, it's really just the pay-per-views and the odd catch-up show I get to watch. So where are things going to go from now? You know what? The most positive that's come from Mania is I am intrigued. Like, you had, even with the bad stuff that was bad, I am still so intrigued to see where this is going to go from here. So it is a case of like, the ball's in your court. You have my undivided attention now. So just let's work together here. Let's make something, you know, cool. Oh, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm so tired. I've been standing in front of the camera for like, oh god, that long. I'm too embarrassed to say out loud how long I've been standing here talking. Anyway, yeah. Next, yeah, I'm gonna see if I can. I'm going to review the Greatest Royal Rumble Network Special, which will be taking place in Saudi Arabia. Because hopefully it'll be a shorter show, and because I won't have to review it during the week, I won't have to worry about finishing this up, so because I have work in the morning. So what I'm saying is, if you're watching this video and you're like, this guy sucks, I'm not going to subscribe. You know what you should do? Subscribe. Because number one, you get your first 30 days free, and in fact, you get every day after that free when you subscribe to this channel. And things are only going to get better from here. I can't BS my way out of you disliking this if you didn't like it. But do give it a like. And anyway, comments section, people, talk to me. What did you make of this Mania thing? Like, it's good, yes, and it has bad parts, and it's like emotionally confusing. Because like it was the case of all the good was crammed on one end and then all the bad was crammed on the other, and the bad was what we ended with, but still intriguing to see where all of this goes, and I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of Mania? I didn't get a chance to review NXT TakeOver New Orleans. Brilliant, 10 out of 10, 5 stars, 100%, A+. I know I said I wouldn't do any of those ratings, but for NXT I'll make an exception because it was just that damn good of a show. Anyway, rambling. Like, comment, share, subscribe, turn notifications on. Link to my Twitter will be in the description. I will catch you all in my next video. Don't forget to check out all my other content as well. Cheers. Whew. Oh, I'm still alive. My voice is almost gone though.